we're going to test this. I'm not an expert at this either, by the way. I just got it. Okay.
These like the speakers?
Yeah, they're the microphone. It's really pretty fancy. Okay. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Burl Stricker.
Legend Tate.
Okay, try it. Do it again.
Legend Tate.
So you'll need to either get closer or talk a little bit louder. Okay?
Okay.
Because it's picking you up, but it's not picking you up real well.
Good.
So whereas I have kind of a louder voice. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's test again. Test 1, 2, 3. Legend, your turn.
Legend Tate.
I'll edit all that out.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome to Senior Moment Podcast. I'm Burl Stricker, and today we have Legend.
Hey guys.
Yeah, glad to have you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Of course.
So one of the biggest reasons, well, give everybody a little background about yourself and, I guess specifically how you got in long-term care or you got into senior care. Tell us about that.
Okay. So like he said, my name's Legend Tate and I am a sales and marketing director for Brookdale Assisted Living. And kind of my backstory is long-term goals. I was planning to be a nurse one day. So during the summer, I was off from college. I got my CNA license. Started working as a CNA in a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for about 6 months. Definitely was not happy in that. I did not agree with some things that was happening in a nursing home. It just wasn't where I was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I came over here and applied to Brookdale Assisted Living, and just the atmosphere was a whole lot different.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest differences were? Like, I mean, when you say a whole lot different, what comes to mind?
What really comes to my mind is quality of life was a lot different than what I was seeing at a nursing home.
Yeah.
Residents and associates were more interactive here. It just felt happier here, maybe felt more like a home here.
Right.
And not just a place where people maybe were just laying and kind of wasting away their lives, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good observation. Okay, go ahead with that. What else?
And so I did that, and then I eventually got my med tech license. So I started passing meds here, and then I was finishing my bachelor's at SWASU, and as soon as I graduated, I was promoted to the business office manager here, and I did that for a year. And then after having my daughter, I was promoted to the sales and marketing.
So at one time they had a business office manager and sales and marketing?
No.
Or just a business
Just
office?
a
So who was in charge of like the sales and marketing? Was it the executive director? Or?
Yeah, so it was a mix between the executive and the business office. She trained me on how to kind of handle doing outreach if I needed to, or giving visits and things like that.
So, I mean, eventually, you've talked about it, but maybe for the audience, your goal is to be an executive director. In like long-term care, they call it administrator, but here they call it executive director. So that's your goal at this point?
Yeah, so long-term goal, I would love to be an executive director somewhere.
And really, you're close because you just got to take the test. You've taken all the prerequisites, all the requirements, so it's just that. So good. So back to really one question that comes to mind, Legend, is do you think that like the fact that you're a CNA first, well, and I'm used to the term med aid, but you call it med tech, same thing.
Yeah.
But do you think the fact that you have that experience will make you a better executive director?
I don't know if it would make me a better, but I think it's a good quality to have just because I kind of have seen the nursing side of it and what a CNA should be doing in an assisted living, and maybe it makes it better if I can relate better to the girls that are on the floor because I kind of know what they're going through and what they need to be doing on a daily.
Do you find it like where you're getting pulled, let's say just on a particular day where you seem to get pulled to do CNA type work or any of that more than you would like to get pulled? Or do you feel like it's a good balance?
I think it's a good balance. I think the girls respect it enough to know that I am one of the managers, but they know I'm there if they need extra hands maybe.
And I think maybe that's another interesting that most people may not understand or have seen before. In this system, in assisted living, you basically have your executive director. You have your three main core, and your three main leaders are the sales and marketing, the executive director, and what they call the health and wellness director. So that's your main. Of course, you have managers too, like a dietary supervisor, and but a lot smaller staff than probably the nursing home that you were at, and that was another big thing, is that. So how many beds is the home that you are the sales and marketing director for?
So we have 34.
So definitely a smaller environment than a lot of nursing homes. And I think that does make a difference. It really does.
I think that's
environment and just not as chaotic maybe.
Yes, it's definitely, and I think that's why it's more home-like. It's quieter because there's not as much going on, and then that having a smaller place, you build better relationships with the residents. You get to have that more one-on-one with them and things.
Right. Well, and you and I have talked about it, and I'll be the first to admit that I do not come from a strong background of assisted living, that I come from more of the nursing home side of it. And I do love that side of it too, and I think that I think there's a place for each of the different, like whether you're talking about independent living or assisted living or assisted living. I think that there's a place for it.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that because of just the dynamics of the audience and what we've done in the past, that maybe they don't know as much about assisted living and the big differences.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you mind explaining kind of in your mind what assisted living does, where its place is in healthcare and long-term care?
So basically what I see, or my opinion, is assisted living is kind of here maybe as just like independent living. It's kind of a stepping stone to maybe a nursing home. A lot of families come to us because their loved ones are still really pretty independent, maybe just need help with a few things and aren't needing full-on care. So this is kind of a place that they can come and still feel like they're living in their own home and able to do things on their own, but we're able to provide those things like maybe meals and just some socialization. A lot of our residents come to us because they're just not getting the socialization anymore at home, just because their kids are grown and they've moved off. Maybe their spouse has passed. Their friends are starting to pass away, and so this is just another way for them to live in a community around others like themselves and not feel like maybe they're trapped somewhere or just coming here to maybe die or something like that.
I think that you would agree that not all assisted livings are exactly the same either.
Yes,
Like some may have a different criteria about the admission process and who they would admit and who, so when you're talking about Brookdale, they may be different from a competitor and how they admit. I know just obviously from experience or in being here that they have the concept which is age in place. Can you explain like the age in place and what that really means?
Yeah, so basically, like you said, we do age in place here, and so when someone moves in, when they qualify for assisted living, so we have to do an assessment before we can admit someone, and based on that is how we decide if they qualify for assisted living. And once they move in here, when they qualify, they're able to stay here until we pass. So because of that age in place, we're able to do a lot of care here. We do care clear up to end of life here. And so because of that, that's another great thing about assisted living, is that we can now offer that. And once they make this their home, they're able to stay in their home and not have to leave when maybe it gets a little too much more.
Right. So do you think, give us some examples of like, when I think about the criteria of an admission here, then tell me some things that we could not do. Some things that, give me some examples of like, okay, we could not do this type of care.
Okay.
Right from the beginning.
Okay, from the beginning, number one, they have to be weight bearing. We can take someone that needs help transferring, but if they cannot help stand, then that's immediate. We can't take them. And then other reasons is maybe if they have a trach or a peg tube or they're on a continuous IV, then those are immediate things that are a no-go here.
Right. So do you think, well, and I think it's important to point out, just because it's true, is that also not all Brookdales are this way, but this particular Brookdale would be private pay only.
Yes.
There's some that do take
Yeah.
Medicaid out there, so we want to make that clear. But I think in this particular case, it is a private pay situation. Yes. Also, I kind of, tell me if you think, going back to kind of the criteria of it, do you think that the assisted living do you think that I'll tell you a big difference that I've noticed that I didn't expect is there's a lot of involvement with home health, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so before, when you think about, like, in other words, in a nursing home health isn't involved at all. Mm-hmm. But here, it is literally like they come to their home. And I think most people would be surprised by that if they hadn't been around assisted living. Of course, nursing homes have hospice involved. Yes. And so do we here. Yeah. But not home health. Yeah. That's a big difference. And, probably most nursing homes are skilled, and meaning that they're doing, like the therapy and all those things, like their rehab days, whereas we don't do that either here. So in a situation, let's say that somebody did, like one of our residents here went to the hospital and they, the criteria to go to skilled would be they stayed 3 days or more, and then they qualify for skilled. But in this case, they could come back here instead. Yeah. And so what would that look like for somebody, instead of going to a skilled nursing facility, they would come here after, let's say, a hospital stay?
So like you were saying, that's when you see that big partnership with home health. Mm-hmm. The doctors are able to get them back over here, and then the home health companies come in and just do the therapy that they're needing. So we've had some that have had surgery and maybe do a respite stay here with us just so they get their therapy. Mm-hmm.
And I saw we had a respite not too long ago, and I think it was a good situation. Yeah. She actually went to outpatient therapy, which is, I think that people don't think necessarily, but it'd be the same if they stayed at home and they might have home health come in, but then they could do outpatient therapy for more days of therapy. So, to play the devil's advocate, do you think that there's a gray area between what nursing homes do and what assisted livings do?
Probably. And
where do you think that, in your opinion, I mean, as I told you before we even started the podcast and you being on it, is that I really wanted, it's almost like it's good for me to be educated and us to be educated on those differences. Where do you think that those, like, if I'm the devil's advocate and I'm saying nursing homes, this person is definitely a nursing home type patient, and you say, no, I think they're assisted living. How do you think is there a way to bridge that gap to where there is a clear way for assisted living and or do you think it's always going to be kind of gray?
I think it's always going to be gray.
Yeah. And I think that, what really wins, in my opinion, with assisted living is the smaller environment. We brought that up and we talked about it, but I think that does win.
Yes, yeah.
And most people don't realize that. I think that probably, when I think about the differences, also we don't necessarily have charge nurses, but we have like, for us particularly, we have 2 LPNs that work for Brookdale for this location. Yeah. We do have an RN that consults and do those the type of thing. We actually have a couple of RNs that consult and help us. But okay, so what about your future goals? I know that you want to be executive director. That's your ultimate goal. Is it, you think it's continuing to stay in the assisted living and still continue that way? Is that what you're thinking ultimately?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think assisted living is where I'm meant to be. Yeah. Yeah. I've just, over my 6 years of being here, I've just, things have shown me this is where I'm meant to be. This is, it's not, I don't have anything against the nursing homes. I think they're there for a reason, but assisted living is just where I think I'm happier.
Yeah. So do you, like, back to the sales and marketing thing, which by the, I'm not just saying this because we're recording, but really I think you do a great job with the sales and marketing.
Thank you.
So that's not something that a nursing home has. Yeah. I mean, they don't have sales and marketing. I mean, they may have some marketing for multiple homes or something. So give us like what your day-to-day, what you would do daily.
So my days can just kind of vary. It just depends. Like yesterday, was off plan. I didn't have anything of that planned. And so I think it just kind of varies on if I have random families coming in that's needing to maybe look at the community. But a lot of it is working. I mean, I work a little in my office to get maybe my lead calls done. I go out into the community to visit with doctors' offices. I do things like the Rotary. Just really trying to get into the community and involved is a lot of what my day is like. But then again, it's a lot of spending a lot of time with families that are looking for their loved ones and building those relationships and helping them through this journey.
Yeah. And I think that, as we talked about as well, that, Western Oklahoma is a little bit different, and I think that they do appreciate and kind of expect for you to be involved in the community a lot more.
Yeah.
Because let's say you were maybe in a bigger metropolitan area, maybe like Oklahoma City or whatever. Well, you may go to the grocery store and you may go to Walmart and you may go to these several different places and never see anybody you know. But here, you go to Walmart, you're going to see somebody you know. Almost everywhere you go, you see somebody you know. So being involved in the communities, it's a lot more important. And I think that if you do come from a bigger area, that you may not realize that grassroots kind of effort in marketing is way different than maybe in a larger area.
Yeah.
So I think that, you're fairly young. And I think that, it's like pretty amazing because really you've worked at the same place for 6 years and you kind of started from the bottom and kind of worked your way up. And what do you think that I'm not looking for like a cliche answer or, specific, but what do you think your like leadership or management style, because you've had a lot of executive directors, right? Or if you've had a few.
Yeah.
And so you've learned probably good and bad from each one of them. And I think that that's the way it is, and some, we get along with great and some you may not.
Yeah.
But either way, all those things have kind of made Legend who you are. So what do you think your style is?
I think I'm a team. Team and just a family. So I think showing that, I'm here to maybe make sure things are being done the way they're supposed to be done. These residents are getting taken care of. But I want them to know that I'm a team player. So when they need something or they have a concern that they're willing to come to me, they know I'm going to listen to them and be that team player for them and not maybe act like I'm better than them or because I'm higher up than them or something like that.
And that's, again, something that people may not completely understand, but I jokingly, but there's a little bit of seriousness there. If somebody asks me, okay, what do you do on a daily basis? The truth would be, wait tables a lot, fill drinks a lot, answer call lights, and but you do that too. There's no difference really in that aspect, because if you had to spend how many times, as we're talking, we're hearing a call light go off. So we spend a lot of times doing those things. And I don't think, there's people that are executive directors of sales and marketing who do not actually do that.
Yes.
In other words, they would ignore that. I could tell by us talking, we're hearing the call light, both of us, and we're both going, oh, we got to answer this. And I think that speaks volumes that, we do care about these people.
Yeah.
And we want the best for them, So I think that, part of it's like, you can't, at your age, even at mine, know it all.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when you mention team and just being able to, work together, I think that you've had, basically, I think you've started out on a really good foot because you've had some examples, good and bad. You've also started kind of at the bottom. And so that helps to, but the truth is that if you're the executive director tomorrow, just like me, there's so much I got to learn, still.
Oh, yeah. Every day you got to
it's crazy.
More.
You would think, I got it figured out. But whether you're talking about another community, another home, or just, you think about something simple as changing who is on your management team.
Yeah.
Then you got to kind of think about it differently. And, you may have to treat those people differently.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes in and they want to tour, Brookdale, they want tell me how that goes. I mean, tell me how the process goes from kind of start. I just meet this person to the end. We've agreed for them to come in.
Yeah. So basically, how that starts is when they get here. I just kind of explain to them what's about to happen. I explain to them, I'm going to show you the community. We're going to go over some pricing. We're going to talk about maybe what's going on with your loved one for why you're wanting to look into assisted living. And so after we have that first initial talk, then I show them around the community, let them ask questions if they have questions. And then we come back to the end and we sit down and we reevaluate and discuss maybe what's going on at home, why they're needing to look into assisted living. And then we kind of go over pricing and then the kind of care that we do here and things like that.
Yeah. And so, that's another big difference. And really, this whole conversation is not just, even though we talked about a lot of the differences, but that's, there is a more of a process with like an agreement, it's written agreement. And it's because it's kind of like same thing if you're renting an apartment.
Yeah.
It's more like a rental agreement more than anything. And then you also have the care side of it.
Yeah.
And whereas you have to partner with the nursing and they're going to go out and do assessment because they're going to decide really how much care that needs to be
and
done
if we
for
can
each
do
one.
it,
So you have a daughter.
Yes.
She's very cute, by the way.
Thank you.
If you guys haven't checked it out, I did a couple of, she videoed it and then I put it out there on a TikTok and just a couple of funny videos of her daughter. So
I was hoping she'd make me famous, but it's not working yet.
Yeah, she's
maybe
really
one day.
cute. How old is she?
She's 2.5.
Yeah, she's very, very sweet and cute, and she'll come up every once in a while and hang out here.
And she loves it. This morning she cried because I couldn't bring her to work with me, so that was fun.
I think that's a big part of it. The fact that like my kids grew up in this environment. I think it changed them. Both of my daughters want to be nurses.
Yeah.
And then I think it changes them.
Yeah. My daughter enjoys it. She's not scared to come up here. She loves all these little ladies and men.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So if you had to tell a story about your favorite resident who really I'm just curious who not name but just tell me about your favorite.
Oh, I've had so many. That's something about this field. You bond with all of them.
Right.
So many and that's just hard. Like I said, I've had so many, but there was one little lady that and I don't like talking about stuff because it gets me emotional because of just how much I love it, but I worked a lot of the 2 to 10, 10 to 6 shifts when I first started here, and just putting a lot of them to bed at night is good bonding because they really do love us. And so this one, she would give me a hug every night and kiss me, and we would sing like this little song together. And so just little things like that so something like that would be one of my favorites, just getting to bond with them that way.
It's funny because they may not know your name, Legend, but they know you.
And
you know what I mean? And that's kind of special. It's like, they may not can remember your name, but yet they know you.
And and she got to where maybe she couldn't see anymore, and so she could even when she eventually moved out of here, I would go see her and she would still recognize me just by my voice. So those things are kind of special to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and we've talked about it before on this podcast, but we take such, I guess, in other words, we're so much a part of their life. Yeah. We take so much stock in their life that when they pass,
it's hard.
Or they move on.
Yes.
You just go to another place.
It's hard.
All those things impact us. I think that if that does not impact you, then definitely in the wrong business.
Of course,
you know what I mean? Because
I agree.
It does, and we all have like our coping mechanism. How do you think you cope with stuff like that? You personally, how do you cope with like the death of?
A lot of crying.
Yeah.
I do a lot of crying. I really, and again, that's where I find myself kind of trying to be, again, that support for the family when they lose the loved one. I try to keep it together for them, but when it's like closed doors, I'll cry just because you mourn them just like you would your own loved one. So.
Yeah, I don't, again, people that are not necessarily in this business, they may not realize the impact that it has on the people that work there, that we really do care, and it really hurts. I think we all mourn a little bit differently. I don't see myself crying, but also it may come out in other ways that healthy and unhealthy. Some of them may not be healthy. Maybe that day I'm in a bad mood and not even realizing that was kind of my way of dealing with it. And anyway, I think we deal with those things. I want to thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for
having me.
And
I know it means a lot. I think that it does add value to the people listening, because there's a lot of, we all want to know, even if you're in this industry, it's like you can get caught in your bubble, and your bubble may be long-term care at like a nursing home, or it may be an assisted living. But either way, it's good to hear outside of our bubble, and then realize that even though they are two different worlds, but yet still we kind of deal with the same stuff, really.
It's good to build relationships with those that are in the nursing home too, just so you can see their side of the things.
And I think making it clear, and you would agree with that, there's been people that we felt like needed to go from here to a nursing home. And you reached out to those people, to those nursing homes, and you helped make that transition. So I think that's very important, because there might be this idea that, hey, they would never do that. No, that's not true. It's happened since I've been here. So
of course,
I know that it happens. And that's because really you do see the bigger picture, which is it's all about them. If we truly cannot meet their needs, and we cannot take care of them the way they need to, then we will reach out and make sure that the right people.
We can't be selfish. We got to always make sure we're doing what's right.
And I think that's even, clear. I think that becomes our number one thing. And then the rest of it, we have a job to do. But still, we take their best interest at heart. So thank you so much for being here. You guys tune in for next time. Thank you for listening to Senior Moments Podcast.
Thanks.
You do good.
Jenna's here.